Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday.
Welcome back, everyone, to We That Sports Atlanta. Ricardo, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, all things considered, sir. I'm very grateful, and I'm fired up to do another podcast with you guys.
Tia, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How was your week?
It was long. It was very long.
What you got going this weekend, Ricardo and Tia?
Well, for myself, I have literally no clue. Saturdays are pretty boring around here. It's usually chasing after the mini
Until college football season.
Until college football season, exactly, sir. Sunday's cool, but probably just a lot of rest and relaxation around the house. No plans at all. Sir.
How about you, Tia?
I don't know. My nephew has belt testing
Which
tomorrow.
belt is he going for?
Black belt, junior black belt. So we'll go.
What? How old is he?
He will be 10 in August.
That is awesome. Which discipline?
Karate.
Man, that is impressive. I try to convince my kids to do martial arts so they can, improve their focus and all that stuff, and they're like, no. So
yeah, it's a 2-hour test. So we'll be there for 2 hours to watch him do the final leg of that journey. My son stopped right before before he became a black belt. So he was really into it and then just fell off the cliff.
That's what happened to my little cousins. One of my little cousins was like nationally ranked and everything, and he just stopped. And his sensei just was like, "You could really take this to another level." And he was like, "I'm going to take it to playing football." So that's what happens here in Georgia. Speaking of Georgia and Ricardo's favorite campus, I'll be there tomorrow for a track meet. And if you have ever lived the track parent life, yeah, great. It's like 12 hours. It reminds me of my time in the military. It's a lot of hurry up to wait. So you're there like 12 hours to see your child run for 58 seconds or 25 seconds. So, but I'm glad she's doing it. But it is a thing. Like after a track meet, the kids are exhausted from all that, and you're exhausted from being in one place for 12 hours.
I ran track when I was 12.
Oh, so you know the life. You know the life. So a couple things happened. The Braves, they had an up and down week. The rotation is still struggling. Just can't get that consistency. And Ozuna was having a tough year already. He got injured, and then he had the alleged domestic violence incident at his house in Sandy Springs. And I have zero tolerance for that. So, I know he's innocent till proven guilty, but
it's a legal concept.
Yes. I just, and I was disappointed that none of the previous players convicted of domestic violence. So even though we're going to the future there, have had their contracts terminated. That's pretty disappointing. So that's just hard on me for a lot of reasons, but too often the players that are being accused and convicted of this have a background that's similar to me, and that really hurts. So prayers out to his wife and family. But the Braves, it's just getting to the point, as Tia said, unless something drastic happens, our expectations that we had for the Braves may not be met. We have a big series with the Dodgers this weekend. I think that's going to tell us a lot about our team. We can't lose all these games. If we do, we probably need to start thinking a different way. The Falcons, no news on the Julio front. And so there's a groundswell of fans thinking, oh, well, maybe if we don't get a trade offer, we could just keep Julio. Tia, what's your thoughts on that?
So I think if you don't get it, I actually agree. You can't let Julio go for nothing. He can't be cut. I mean, that's I look at it strictly from the perspective of value. You just can't just cut Julio. And
what about is a mid-round pick nothing or something?
I think the issue is not the mid-round pick necessarily, although I think that's a little bit too low. But I think it's the mid-round pick and the line in the sand that Terry Fontenot has drawn in regards to trying to get money off the books. And so, yeah, it's too low if it's take the second and also pay the majority of his contract. Then that's a non-starter. That's a non-starter conversation.
What about you, Ricardo?
You're not going to get value at this point for Julio Jones, the greatest wide receiver in Falcons history. And so if you look at it,
player. You accidentally said wide receiver when you said player.
I mean, you could argue Matt Ryan in terms of
you could
in terms of most talented. You could argue Dion, even though I'd say, hey, was you here more than one contract? He was not. I gotta choose Julio in terms of talent, though. Julio, I mean, Dion's up there, but you're just not going to get equal value. And if you're not going to get equal value, and you know this, and they're telling you repeatedly that you're not getting equal value. Matter of fact, they're basically saying every time they keep saying if there's a first round pick out there, the Falcons would have taken that. In fact, I think I read today someone said, yeah, they offered a first round pick, but not for next year. So that's just not going to happen. So now what are we talking about if it's about getting that contract off the books?
It's all about getting the contract off the books. Honestly, I think that more than a draft pick is much more critical to Terry Fontenot.
Yeah.
And so that's when you're talking about value. That's what I mean by value is that you're not necessarily. I don't think you're going to get a first round pick. Anybody who thinks that we were going to get a first round pick for Julio Jones has not been paying attention because DeAndre Hunter didn't go for a first round pick, and he's younger and has been very productive in the NFL. So I think the strategy is to try to put the Falcons in a different position cap-wise. And I don't think that the Falcons will be interested in a straight cut because it doesn't achieve the goal. It doesn't achieve the main goal. It just hurts the Falcons. And so if you're going to have to pay for them, then you may as well keep them, attitude and all.
Yeah. I think it's, do you think he would try to sit out? Which I think he would, but I don't think he would sit out the whole season. I think he would come to game one because that's the way the NFL is structured is you're getting like a per diem-ish thing the whole training camp, and then your real checks start.
Is he going to participate in off season? No, especially not if he's here. He's not going to participate in off season. Right. But I don't think he'll sit out the whole season.
So
I think that what teams are banking on by kind of lowballing the Falcons by saying, "Hey, we'll give you a mid-round pick and you're going to keep the contract," is the idea that the Falcons will want to be rid of the headache and just straight cut Julio. But that hurts it doesn't achieve the goal that the Falcons are trying to get to. And so there's not a reason to do that. None whatsoever.
So in the world of sports, and we don't talk about a lot of the other sports, but we did have a big incident with a big situation. The best tennis player in the world, Naomi Osaka, who's dear to my heart because her and my son are almost the same age. They were both born in Japan, and so and she's an Afro Latino with a Haitian dad, and so she said, "I'm not going to do the press for the French Open, one of the 4 Grand Slams." She just feels like the tide has turned very negative in tennis reporting, and objectively, we don't know because we're not there for the questions. Like those big sports, you don't get the press conferences; you just get snippets, like if they say something good or funny or what have you. And she said, "I'm willing to take the fines, um, and continue to play in the tournament." The other Grand Slams came together and said, "Just FYI, so you don't get carried away. If you don't do it, we may not invite you to the tournament." So it's not just simple as you play in the tournament and not commenting. And then she said, "Oh, well, that's okay. I will help you. I won't play in the tournament." And so the Grand Slams were like almost like this Julio. It's funny, kind of like this Julio situation, because they were like, "Oh, that's not what we thought was going to happen." And so she said, "No, I'm withdrawing from this tournament." After they made their joint statement, and then they issued a joint statement saying, "Hey, we do like mental health, yeah." And so, and for me, it felt a little bit like all the Pride advertising that I'm getting in my mailbox. Is all that advertising for Pride, or are you trying to economically benefit from Pride Month or Pride Week? And so that's what how kind of felt like the tournament. You made your statement. Hey, you better if you try to come to this tournament and you don't not go do it, you ain't coming. And then when she withdrew, they were like, that's not how we. And so there was a lot of support around the world of athletics, a lot of support, primarily from athletes of color, but across the spectrum, you got support from allies. But if you looked at the comments on Twitter and Instagram from regular people like us, they were the opposite. You should have, you're getting paid to play a kid's game. You blah, 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 blah. So that long soliloquy, I just wanted to open the floor for you to tell us how you felt about the situation. Starting off with you, Ricardo.
I couldn't understand. Good night. The French Open, they've been around for how long? And they just totally dropped the ball in terms of, like, who is the PR person for the French Open? I was like, this is simple. This is a softball. All you have to say is, Naomi Osaka, one of our biggest role models in the sport right now. We're there for you. And you take the time that you need, and hopefully that we can work to acquiesce your request to make it easier for you to do what you have to do, because we want you at your best, young lady. We thank you so much for your support.
That's not what they said.
Pretty much the exact opposite. Basically told her, do it or else. And then when she called their bluff, they sent a meme or whatever that was, because I saw the announcement and I was like, that is embarrassing. That's not going to play well. She has a lot of fans. No one knows anything about the French Open outside of the French, I guess, and medial tennis fans. But most people who aren't even fans of tennis love Naomi Osaka. Might want to protect the face. NBA, anybody? Protect the face. Football, protect the face. You don't talk about Brady. You don't talk about LeBron. You don't talk about whoever the face is of baseball. Mike Trout. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't believe how much they dropped the ball on that. Bad look. Bad.
Tia?
So is the question about the fine? Is the question about their
just your thoughts on the whole situation?
So mental health, of course, is near and dear to my heart for personal reasons, but I don't know what the right answer is. It's a catch-22, really, for not just for the French Open, but for all sports, because the media drives the sport. The media drives that rabid fan interest in the stars. And so it's been this very uneasy relationship between stars and the media, really a codependent relationship between the two in order to advance and publish the image. So I respect and I applaud her for taking a stand for herself and saying that, you know, I need to step back. This is not good for me, and I want no part of it. So then the question is, how does the French Open then respond to that? Because the French Open, to your point, Ricardo, nobody really knows about it. They need the press. Mm-hmm. So how do you respond? Otherwise, you'll get into this scenario where you'll have more and more athletes opting out of talking to the media, and it's not a Naomi, a issue with Naomi. You're required to talk to the media in the NFL. You're required to talk to the media in the NBA. You will get fined because there is an understanding that the media is necessary for the sport to grow. So I totally respect that. That's what she should have done for herself. I don't know.
And it's actually funny because the Washington Post posted a letter from the national sports writers for the NFL that was saying, okay, we understood the COVID precautions, and we've already started hearing that you're going to still try to use COVID as a reason that we can't get into the locker room for post-game interviews. And we just would like to have dialogue with the NFL Players Association and talk about whether it's vaccination requirements or whatever it can take. But we need to be in the locker room. We need to be able to do live pressers. And you kind of, and they left this unsaid, but you kind of need us to as well. So that is an interesting thing because it was never a question of is the media availability important for a sport. It's just about how do you handle it for your best player in a way that doesn't say, okay, nobody has to do media availability. And I don't know what the exact perfect way to handle it is, but I can tell you they showed us what the imperfect way to handle it is. So I hope that for everybody's sake, because I like tennis probably more than the average person. But you need to, it needs to grow. And she is a part of the next wave. Serena, as much as we love her,
her time is
her time is yeah. And so
going into the sunset.
So and so that kind of leads us to time fleeting. The face of the NBA, LeBron, kind of was, for the first time in his career, lost a first round series. And so we're here to talk Hawks, but that's a monumental thing because it's kind of a league shaking thing because LeBron has lost some finals, probably one that he shouldn't have lost, but the other ones, he didn't have the better team, right? This was the first time LeBron has ever been eliminated from a first round in his career.
Gotta love it.
The Lakers hater. So Ricardo, how did you feel about it? What do you think is the next steps and we're going to go through the series, but just this monumental thing, does it mean more than the Lakers weren't good enough this year, or just what it means?
First of all, credit to the Suns.
Hey, Antonio.
The Suns are really good.
Jennifer.
The Phoenix Suns are really good.
I think people missed that. People missed that. Missed that. The Suns were really good. They're the number 2 seed. And all those games that AD and LeBron missed pushed them down to have to play. See, LeBron has never been eliminated, but LeBron has never been the number 7 seed. So
awesome.
Number 7 seeds.
Now, we talked about last week. It was last week or a week before. We mentioned, I even admit, I said, boy, DeAndre Ayton is much better than I thought he was. That was one of the keys to the series.
Was a revelation for me.
Yeah, and he didn't even play great the last couple of games. But it was his presence. It was the fact that we couldn't dominate in the one position that we thought we would. And,
When you say we,
oh, you know I'm a Laker fan too, man. I love my Lakers. I'm a Laker
for a
fan.
second, I thought you were on the staff. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I know. Sometimes I come off the second. But as far as the Lakers, since we're bringing it up, I have no worries whatsoever. We have to remember, number one, in terms of LeBron, let's start. It would be one thing if he got hurt old age. You know, he got old age or whatever. Okay, Tia's loving this. Yes, she is.
I wasn't even going to rub it in, but I am loving it, Chico.
Yeah. It would be one thing if it was because he was 36, he had an injury like something that was in relation to that. But that's not what happened. It was a fluke injury, and it affected him. I've had a high ankle sprain, and I said, listen to me. 6 to 8 weeks is not near enough. First of all, 6 to 8 weeks is long enough, just about long enough before you can actually stand upright and start going straight. And I said, look, even then, you're still going to be funny for another month or two. It's just not going to be right. And even it came out later, which I knew it would. He admitted he was about 85%. Anybody who's followed the game and followed LeBron like as much as I have, you could see that.
But Ricardo, your willingness to chunk this off as having nothing to do with age.
Hold. Listen to me. There's parts of this. You asked the question. I'm giving you a specific answer. Are the Lakers okay? Yes, they are. We lost because we were hurt. The Lakers were hurt. If Anthony Davis isn't hurt, if Anthony Davis isn't hurt, this isn't a series. They were winning when Anthony Davis was well. And when he was hurt,
is there?
Oh no, you're still listen to me.
How often is Anthony Davis hurt?
Yes,
I can't let you just. I just can't.
That's true.
That's his career.
That's true. But they won a championship last year, so they're doing pretty good. They're doing pretty good.
You have to understand. No, if you build, if the requirement for you to win a championship is to build it around a 36-year-old player and a
37 if we're talking about next
player.
year.
Next
year, is he going to be 36?
I know, but the thing is, guys,
and a player who is chronically hurt, because this isn't Anthony Davis an aging issue. This has been Anthony Davis's entire career, and the Lakers winning model was just that. So in terms of we're just fine, no, you're not. Your model's broken.
No, we're not. We are fine. Let me get my point out in terms of why we're okay. Okay, what happened? We lost because we were hurt. We weren't hurt last year, so we won the chip. We were hurt this year, so we lost. What can we do about that next year? You telling me bringing the same team back, a little more cohesion. You took Andre Drummond, who I actually think is not a bad piece. I like him for what they were using him for. Hey, buddy, we don't need you to be a superstar. We don't need you to be an all-star. Andre Drummond, all I need you to do is go in there and get double-digit boards every day. And that worked. If you follow the Lakers like I do, you would see, hey, yeah, he was doing a good job doing that. Okay, Schroeder, who is the guy who I like the least. Hey, Schroeder, we need you to cut off the basket, pass and cut. Pass and cut. That's all we need you to do. It'd be great if you made a couple threes for us, do that little pump fake. We need you to bring the ball up the court, rest LeBron a little bit. Can he do that next year? Yes, he can.
What do the Lakers do next year?
I'm beginning to think he might, but here's what I would do if I'm the GM, because that's what you guys are really asking. If I'm the GM, I re-sign him, but he's not going to be back. I'm re-signing him because the way the NBA works is I'm going to need his contract to be able to accrue what I really want. And that's just someone who's a third star. I think I can get something for Schroeder and Kuz. If I actually, as a Hawks fan, I would love Kuz for our team, by the way. But that's a whole other subject. I would love
to do what?
Oh, man, we've talked about that, but I'll talk about it a little bit when we talk about the Hawks, about the things that I want us to do. Because I think the Hawks are so good. I think that we actually have the brightest future out of everybody in the playoffs right now. I think we're young. We really don't have anything that we need to add, but there is one thing that we could add. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But in terms of the Lakers, their time is right now. And there's nothing that anybody's going to change that. The Lakers really beat the Lakers. You give them a couple of shooters, you give them a shooter, You give them another ball handler, they'll be just
The
fine.
Lakers?
And the problem, Ricardo, is
The
you are
Lakers?
absolutely correct, but shooters are hard to find. There are 32 teams. There are 10 shooters.
You know what's funny? Shooters are actually not hard to find. Shooters,
Okay.
hold on. Listen to me. Shooters are not hard to find in the NBA. Everybody can shoot. A lot of guys can shoot. If you're under 6'5", you probably can shoot. The problem is having a shooter who can stay in front of his man more than 3 seconds. That is truly hard to find.
No, that you're right. That last part of your statement is true, but I think if you do the analysis, a shooter is hard to find. There's not 32 shooters.
Was a shooter.
Every team does not have a shooter.
Yeah,
the Lakers don't have any shooters.
No, that's not true. That's not
Who's the shooter on the Lakers?
Michael Moore is a shooter. KCP led the league in 3-point shooting.
When?
This
year.
Well, yes,
no, he did not. No.
He shot 41%. Let's do. We can.
That didn't lead the league.
Hold on. Let me. You
41% didn't lead the league, though.
41%. Caruso shot 40% for most of the year. Even LeBron shot 35% from three for this year. They had shooters. The problem is what was happening was once they realized that, hey, you know what? LeBron's 85%. He doesn't have the lift. He doesn't have the explosion. They put that wall in front of him and said, hey, you know what? We're going to make it to where we can play LeBron one-on-one right now. And we can go out and attack those shooters. And guess what happened in the playoffs? Which always happens in the playoffs, actually, by the way. You have to have multiple people that can shoot the basketball.
I love people who don't believe that Father Time has any impact.
No one's saying that. Is LeBron the same thing as he was in Cleveland? No. But is LeBron at 85, 90% better than 90% of the league? Yes, he is. Trust me.
But that's true, but it's not enough to take your team to a first round win in this modern NBA. But let's talk about sunnier things. Let's go Hawks.
Oh, that's fun.
We
all
move.
Listen.
We move.
All three of us had the Hawks winning. One of us had the Hawks in 5.
Yeah, you.
Oh, okay. But the thing is that we all agreed was that we loved what the Hawks had to put on the floor. And the nervousness that we had was because of the inexperience that the Hawks had to put on the floor. The Hawks stepped up in a way that when it wasn't just Trae Young, because that people who say that didn't watch the whole series. Listen, our guys played terrible in Madison Square Garden offensively, but they packed their defense every time. And so and I agree, Antonio, when we talk about the fast turnaround. I think that happened to Miami as well. I think Miami and the Lakers suffered the most from that because they got the furthest. And only one out of the final 4 made it past the first round. And that's not a coincidence. But the Hawks, although they didn't have the experience, the poise they played with the whole time was impressive, even if you're not a Hawks fan, which we are. And so the Hawks played terrible on the road. But they had one thing that the Knicks didn't have. They had a Trae Young. And now that we have a Trae Young, we've been on the other end of another team having a Trae Young. Because if you're a Knicks fan, you're like, they're playing great defense. They are holding the Hawks below their season averages in shooting. But guess what? When it got to that fourth quarter, from that game winner, to every fourth quarter except for including game 2. He dominated that game. The game was played at his pace that he wanted to. The game 2 loss actually helped Nate develop his style. Hey, Pamela, we love Trae too. And so it was a great series. So we're going to get on to the next series, but Tia, give us your thoughts on the Hawks overall and that series that 20 out of 22 experts picked us to lose, and 3 out of 3 experts picked us to win. So as one of the experts that picked us to win, what did you see?
Well, first, kudos. I think you deserve kudos for 2 things, right? So let's go a little bit further back. You deserve kudos for saying that Trey was going to be a superstar. I think that
that was before the podcast.
2 months before the draft, that draft that year, you were like, Trey Young is going to be a superstar. He's going to be a superstar in this league. So credit to you. You recognize that. You didn't say he would be a superstar villain, but a superstar.
But superstar villains are so rare. Like, you can be a superstar and not be a superstar villain. Right? Because Curry is a superstar, but he's not a superstar villain. Michael Jordan is a superstar villain.
He was a villain.
Scottie Pippen was a superstar, but not a super. Kobe is a superstar villain. LeBron, I think he still struggles. He still struggles to embrace that villain side. But Reggie Miller,
not he struggles to embrace. He does not want to be.
He doesn't.
LeBron doesn't want to be a villain.
He doesn't. He doesn't. But Trey, not just his play on the court, but how he handled the inappropriate. Because if somebody spit on me, we're doing Malice in the Palace. I'm not mature at this age enough to not do Malice at the Palace. And in fact, I would be looking for if you look at me wrong in the crowd, I'm throwing the ball and hit you in the face. So
that's not mature.
So yeah, you recognize that he would be a superstar in this league, and you said that Hawks in 5. So kudos.
Thank you.
You're one.
I also said for once.
Twice.
I also said Luka was going to be a superstar.
But I think that was already a foregone conclusion, so that's not really a stretch.
We'll have that conversation.
Okay. So Ricardo, what do you think about
most people went into that, like Luka was already they were already talking about him as rookie of the year before the draft. So it's a really hard to say, I said that Luka was going to be a superstar. Get in line. Who didn't say that?
And I think the reason that I had to advocate for Trey was because all three of us who were friends at the time all assumed incorrectly that Luka was going to be the number 1 pick. I mean, the Suns coach was either Bosnia or Serbian. If chime in and let me know if I always get that incorrectly. But I just knew that was going to happen. And then also the Kings, who had the 2nd pick, had Vlade Divac, who was Croatian. So it's like, we know what's going to happen here. So by the time it gets to our pick, I like Trey because we had no chance to get Luka in my mind. And we know how that turned out. Yeah. But again, Ricardo, give me your closing thoughts on this series, and then we're going to jump right into the next series because I got some stats. The professor got some stats for
I'm going to be as super brief as I can, even though it's super hard because there's so much I want to say to all my.
I don't know if we have to be super brief though. This is the Atlanta Hawks. I think that.
Well, no, there's just so much else I want to get in. I want to make sure we get in. Number 1.
I mean, our Hawks are in the 2nd round of the playoffs. I don't think that we shortcut them at all.
No.
We shortcut everybody else, but we don't shortcut.
We're not shortcutting these
the part that I want to talk about is I can't wait. I hope we get some time to talk about the next series. That's what I'm.
No, that's what we're going to. So give me your thoughts on the last series.
As far as this series, what was encouraging was I was surprised about how good our defense was. I just didn't see that coming, and to that point. DeAndre Hunter, I want to give that young man some love as well.
Kudos, DeAndre.
Wow. I tell you what.
Think about it.
But not just him.
It's really significant considering how long he was out, leading up into the playoffs. That he came in at that point and played as well as he did in the first round. Because you would have expected a little bit more of a need for a ramp up, and
the other thing was, even though his minutes are not where they were before the knee injury, when he's out there, you don't see the knee injury. And so that was, I would rather him play 28, 30 hard minutes than like 35 minutes where he's like limping around the court trying to protect his knee.
Exactly.
So that was a part of it too.
I want my New York friends to understand. that they kept saying, hey, we 3-0. We beat them 3-0 in the regular season. Well, number one, you learned this series what the regular season is not. And number two, and more importantly, you didn't see this team.
Right.
This is not the team you saw. So you
bookmark that. Yeah, we're going to talk about that next.
Yeah, you didn't get a chance to prepare for this team. Even I'm taken aback. It was like, wow, we are going to be a problem. I'm actually really feeling good about the next series now.
All right, we're going to talk about that in a second. Well, hey, why delay? Mm-hmm. How good are you feeling about the next series? So I much like the New York series, mm-hmm. the regular seasons mean nothing because both teams were missing significant players in all 3 games, and 2 of the games were played under the old regime. So, and this is not even to talk about the pink elephant in the room of is Joel Embiid going to play, and is he going to play effectively? So, Ricardo, you wanted to jump on into the Philly series? We in it now. Let's go.
Well, I tell you what, to go ahead and address that elephant, listen, this is not me in my hawk-colored glasses. I'm just saying this as a fan of the game. It would not be smart, Philly, to play Embiid. Honestly, I don't think this series, but it might be a long series, and if it is, then maybe he'll get some time toward the end. But I'm telling you, a big man is not what you want to mess with. And I'm not saying this because I just want the Hawks to win. I do want the Hawks to win, of course. But I'm telling you, it didn't look good. It doesn't sound good. The things that I'm hearing in terms of, hey, day to day, yeah, okay.
Big men. It's harder for big men to heal. I mean, we talked about it we touched on it with AD over in the Lakers, and it's even more significant, I think, with Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid has even as much as we talk about AD and his injury history, Joel Embiid has a much greater injury history, and he does not deal with pain very well. And this particular injury, because it's interesting, because I was listening to a pain consultant or a medical consultant talk about that type of injury, and it's not just getting up and down the court. It's not just standing. It's not just the pounding, but it's even at rest. The impact of the injury after doing that at rest, and how significant, how it locks up, how it swells, how painful it is, even giving it an opportunity to rest in between. So how are you going to manage that? If he is able to play and he gets out on the court, you're rotating guys in and out. When he rotates out, what are you doing to keep him in a scenario where he can rotate back into the game and not be in any tremendous kind of pain? I don't see how he plays. If they try it, I don't see how he plays the entire series, and I don't see how that they don't create, they don't hurt more than they help. And this is the other thing. Unless you believe that the injury is so minor that he'll be able to play. So you have to approach it with the assumption we want him to play because he's our best chance to win, not just our best chance to get past the Hawks, but our best chance to win the entire thing. So are you saying that you believe that the injury is so minor that you can get past the Hawks, you can get past the either the Nets or the Bucks, and play in the finals to win? Because if you don't think that he's going to be able to play all 3 series, you shut him down now. Mm-hmm. You don't risk further injury, and you get him prepared for next season.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to say this to me too. That's not y'all's only problem. That's not going to be your only problem. Let me tell you something about these Hawks. We got shooters.
Yeah.
Multiple shooters.
Yeah.
See, the biggest thing that a lot of you fans don't really pay attention to, you love to see the Trey show. You love it when he's getting these 35, 40 points. That's cool. But when we're at our best is if he's getting 25 to 28 points. And let me tell you why. When he gets 12 to 14 assists, our team is dangerous. We got shooters.
Yeah, it's funny because you're already seeing Philadelphia 76ers fans making the same mistake that New York Knicks fans saying that all we got to do is shut down Trae Young, and it's a wrap. And it's my question is, shut down what? When you say shut Trey down, are you talking about shut him down so that he's not even playing at all, period?
Mhm.
Or what are you shutting down? Are you shutting down the shooting? Because to your point, then that's where he flourishes, the facilitator.
And two things that kind of get overlooked as this media agenda propelled by, unfortunately, our former coach is propelled.
Oh gosh.
Trey. So we heard Bogey and Gallo say, well, the biggest difference with Nate McMillan is that he calls plays, especially in the fourth quarter. And you as a fan, you were thinking, so one of the criticisms that we had, even as fans, and especially other people had, was that, that Trey played out of control. But if your coach is not calling plays, then how did you play out of control? That's one.
Well,
the second thing that comes is he turned the ball over too much, except for the 2021 playoffs when his assist to turnover ratio was 10-2. 10-2. So, which is much better than Luka or any other primary ball handler playing in the playoffs. And so I'm not saying he's going to maintain it or has to maintain it, but I'm just talking about you have to dig down to figure out what's going on. And to George Williams' point, he said it's Ben Simmons' team now. Yeah. And let me tell you, I love Ben Simmons. I would love to have Ben Simmons on our team. But and I love what he does as a basketball player. But let us not, sometimes we get carried away and we go like, yeah, it's Ben Simmons' team now. Joel Embiid scored 28 points a game. Ben Simmons will have to be locked in the gym after the game all night to score 28 points in a playoff game.
Aren't they 10 and 11 in games where Joel Embiid did not play this season?
Yeah, and they made some kind of comment that was like, we're used to playing without Joel Embiid. Kinda, but let's look at the stats. You said that, but here's what the stats said. Philly was 12th in the league in offensive efficiency with Joel Embiid. Okay, that's pretty decent because they are one of the top 3 teams in the NBA in defensive efficiency with Embiid, right? So 12 plus the third defense is sounds awesome. But here's the problem. Your offensive efficiency without Joel Embiid is 28th. 28th, even with the third defensive efficiency, is not going to beat these Hawks, right? And so, you know, the other thing, that's other secret sauce to the Philly formula is the Hawks and Philly shoot a lot of free throws. They are both in the top 4 in free throws shot, right? And the primary driver for Atlanta is Trae Young, right? But Trae Young's free throws are closer to 6 slots below him than they are to Joel Embiid, who led the league in free throws attempted and shoots an incredibly high percentage from the free throw line. He is like no big man that we've ever seen. Maybe except for Jokic, but even Jokic is more offensively skilled as far as shooting from deep and definitely passing. But Joel Embiid is and we're advanced, except for Tia, she's young. We saw a lot of the big men in the big men of the day. None of them shot free throws like Joel Embiid shot. No. Not at the rate or the percentage. No. Like Joel Embiid is scores out of his 28 points, which 28 points is a lot of points to replace. Like Trey didn't average 28, which was better for us. To replace a guy who's averaging 20 points is difficult. But when you look at the NBA statistics, there's a bunch of guys that average 20 points. There's 4 guys who average 28 points. None of them are replaceable.
Right.
And so, you know, if Embiid, it's not if Embiid plays, right? It's not if Embiid plays. It's can Embiid play effectively? Because probably the worst thing that could happen as a Sixers fan, and the best thing that could happen as a Hawks fan, is Embiid to try to tough it out. Like I saw Steven Jackson, and he got on. He's up on he. It was great to see them have to fight with Kwame, but he got on and he was like, "I, as a player, would look at the Lakers front office and their training staff to say, what in the blank was that?"
Agree.
You
Totally
knew you weren't going to win. You knew. To Tia's point, when Steven Jackson said that, I thought exactly about what Tia just said. Do you think that Anthony Davis was going to get out there and play that whole game? And then play this, because then that just would have tied the series. Then turn around and go and play in Phoenix. But not just that. Then he's going to play another 2 series. Right. You knew he couldn't. So you should have protected him from himself and said, because he's already injury prone. And what if it? Well, it was a groin strain, but you tore the muscle off during that foolish attempt to I don't know, placate the doubters. Look, you're injury prone, Anthony Davis. You coming back or not is not gonna shut them up about that.
Yeah. And it's just the nature of the size of those guys. I mean, people make comments about how, and I just did it myself. But those big guys, especially the big guys trying to keep up with pace these days, are going to get hurt a lot more easily. That's just kind of the nature. You hate to say it, but kind of the nature of the game as this thing is today.
And so, I think that's the thing. And they struggle to defend pick and rolls with Joel Embiid. That is his kryptonite, defending pick and rolls. Doc Rivers' kryptonite is defending his schemes for pick and rolls. And so, and the Hawks don't run nearly as many pick and rolls as they ran when that was their only actual play. But we've been hearing trust the process for a bunch of years, trying to get Embiid to play with the same injury that caused him to have surgery. Doesn't feel like trusting the process. So I think and this is our last show before the series starts. So we better get our predictions in so we can move on and look at the rest of the NBA. Ricardo, prediction.
Hawks in 6. I'm going to give the 76ers 2 games. Yeah. Listen, the 76ers are a good team. They can play. They just, boy, I got to admit, I'm being conservative. I want to say 5. I want to say 5, but I'm going to say 6, just being generous, just assuming something happens. If they're smart, they don't even try to be Embiid. And they can just figure it out, work it out. And I agree, Lance. Ben is great, but they don't have enough help from without Joe. Ben can't shoot, and he don't want to shoot.
That's the thing. I saw somebody say, "Well, they should put him at center like Magic."
No. We're doing predictions. Hush.
Yeah. Let's just say Hawks.
But he already gave his prediction. He said Hawks.
Yeah, but I haven't, and neither have you. So you be quiet.
I'm ready to hear yours.
Be quiet.
I'm ready to hear yours.
The Hawks are headed to the Eastern Conference Finals after 6 games.
2 Hawks.
I bet you gonna say something like
2 Hawks.
Somebody gonna say Hawks is 5.
Okay.
This series we will end at home.
Yes, that's what
although initially I was really kind of upset that we didn't end the New York series at home, but then when he took the bow, chef's kiss.
So Joseph Robertson says, who has the better bench and role players? Joseph, I think it's pretty close. I think that it's pretty close. I like Seth Curry's little brother, right? Steph Curry's little brother.
Seth is the brother.
Right. Steph.
I like Seth.
Yeah, I like Seth Curry off the bench. I think he has the potential to give us problems. I think there are other guys, Maxey, and those guys are are up and down, right? And so it's going to be hard to see them contributing on the road. I think that one of the problems, I love Dwight off their bench, and not just because he's my cousin, but the problem is if Joel Embiid is not able to play, or if he's playing limited minutes, one of the guys that you thought you had a bench advantage is now going to have to start.
Prediction.
Clint Capella doesn't have anybody to guard, he's going to guard the rim, and he's going to do it well, as the Knicks can attest. So I'm going to say Hawks in 7. Tough series. It's going to be a defensive series, but if they, how we guard Tobias Harris is going to be big. All right.
I do want to say, we're not hating because, listen, the Sixers have talent. Tobias Harris is no joke. I didn't like how he played for the Lakers last year, but Danny Green has been pretty good.
He has. He has.
They have some wing defenders. The problem is everything that they did is built off of one person. It's off of the person that won't be there. And it won't be effective if they try to put it.
And Lance thought it was funny that we said Hawks he said Hawks out in 5. Or maybe Tom Hanks. Maybe he meant Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
but Hawks out in 5.
Tom Hanks, Philadelphia. Okay. That was a great movie.
Lance, we're going to reach out to you.
Yeah,
we're going to reach out to you. Let's mark this.
Yeah.
If the Hawks are out in 5, we're going to let you come on the show so we can congratulate you and say that you were right and we were wrong. But I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Moving on to the rest of the playoffs. All right. In the East. About the last time we talked, the Bucks were already advancing, and the Nets were pretty much already advancing, and they both ended up.
I mean, are we really doing a Bucks Nets prediction? I mean, you all already predicted.
We are. So give me your prediction.
You did your prediction at the beginning.
Give me your prediction and why.
I'm the only one who should be doing a prediction because you all had already decided that the Bucks were coming out of the Eastern Conference Final. So there's your prediction. You all, it's already in the books. Don't go changing it.
Okay,
now.
So what's your prediction?
I have no idea.
I hope it's not as bad as your Heat prediction.
I'm more confident than I was.
I didn't predict the Heat was going to beat the Bucks. I was wanting the Heat to beat the Bucks.
There's a big difference. You're right.
I don't trust the Bucks, so I'm going.
It's hard to trust Giannis.
You shouldn't trust him.
But what I can tell you is the Nets have absolutely nobody to check Giannis, nor
they don't. They don't.
Hold on. But that's not the reason they're going to win. The reason they're going to win is because Harden is everything for the Nets. You guys see that. If you're watching Brooklyn, they're unstoppable because Kevin Durant is the best player. He might be the best player in the league right now. He's Kevin Durant. But the most important, let me finish. The most important player for the Nets is James Harden.
It is.
And what's going to happen in this series is he's going to face the one guy that gives him fits, and that's Drew Holiday.
See, I think that
perimeter player in the league.
I think
we'll see if Bud does that. He hasn't had a history of doing those matchups right.
I think the biggest issue with the Nets, the biggest question I have with the Nets is because when you get to the playoffs, it really becomes team collaborative ball. I mean, that ball has to get in everybody's hands. Everybody has to be involved. Kyrie and Durant are ISO players. So to your point, I do think that Harden is the most important factor for the Brooklyn Nets, both in this series and if they move on, in the Eastern Conference Finals and the finals if they move on from there. So the question becomes: if you stop, if you shut down Harden, ISO ball doesn't get you far enough in the playoffs. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next series is moving to the West. The Grizzlies were frisky, but the Jazz, I couldn't believe how quickly Donovan Mitchell, and I know we don't want to get up with Ricardo on this age thing, but I just can't believe how quickly Donovan Mitchell, who's 23, came back in and was dominant. So they moved on, and they are waiting on the winner of the Clippers and the Mavs. So So first of all, who's going to
Lance-
be the winner of the Clippers and the Mavs?
First, Lance is so disrespectful. New Jersey will win the East. He's so disrespectful.
And Joseph Roberson said Harris is a key for Brooklyn, and I agree. I agree.
Shooter. It might be the best shooter on the team.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
So Ricardo, Mavs Clippers still going on.
I just want the record to show that I so much like the Clippers at the beginning of the season, at the series, that I privately hit up Jameed and said, "Hey, man, I really want to bet on the Clippers." He talked me out of it. I'm glad he did, because I look at them. They are the better team. But they are one of my lessons in basketball. I tell people this all the time about the NBA. The NBA is not like any other sport. It is not about the best team. The NBA is all about matchups. The truth is, they can't do anything with Luka. Kawhi can't do anything with Luka.
They haven't.
Paul George can't do anything with Luka. Patrick Beverly can't do. They don't even have him on. Is he playing?
Right.
Yes.
They need to put out a missing poster. So, do the Mavs win tonight, or are you saying the Mavs will win going back?
Mavs closed it out.
Tia, what's your thoughts?
I'm saying Mavs finish this series.
Okay, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Because do you think the Jazz can beat the Mavs and the Clippers?
Yes, I think that's.
Isn't that the definition of getting ahead of ourselves? Who do you think is going to finish out this series?
I was, but I think it does. I looked and I said, well, it doesn't matter, because the Jazz is going to gentleman sweep whoever wins this series.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think Dallas will give them problems, because I think Luka is that one. You guys know that.
We know.
LeBron was on the offensive side of the ball. He's not LeBron, because LeBron was that on the defensive side too. But on the offensive side of the ball, it's like, if it's close, you can't do anything to stop me.
Yeah, he is hard to stop.
He's bigger than they are. He can.
Yeah.
You know what he's going to do. It's not like he's out quicking them, out athletic them. You know what he can do, what he's going to do, and you can't stop it.
All right. So
Suns and Nuggets.
The Nuggets took the Trailblazers off, and we said we were going to comment a little bit on this. Is it time to rebuild in Portland? Dame has been loyal. He's criticized people who've gone away. Is it time to do something different in Portland?
Yeah, they don't have a choice, man. This is.
And I don't just mean firing poor Terry Stotts, who's gone.
No,
he's gone, but that's not enough. So, in my opinion, what do you think, Tia?
Listen, go ahead, Tia.
Do you rebuild in Portland?
I think.
So I know that Dame signed that contract extension. What is it, like 145, 175? I can't remember, but it was. And his initial was like he didn't want to he didn't want to do that whole joining up with other teams to create superstars. He was very loyal to the Trailblazers. He didn't want to chase championships. He was happy in Portland. His family's there. His life is there. He's really
Dame
good.
is out of that piece.
But the overtime game in the series, where it was Dame
against the whole Nuggets. that has to be disheartening.
That changed the narrative. Does it change his mind?
So after the game, we all remember when Jordan scored 53 against the Celtics. What we forget is he came back the next game and scored 19. So after Dame's in the overtime game, and Dame scored 55 in a double overtime game, and he came back and he didn't play. And so I think that Dame is not a jerk enough to force his way out of Portland, but he better be a jerk enough to force them to redo that team, because they need a total different mix. He said it, and I like people who are self-actualized. And we'll go to the next one and get ready to close the show. But what Damon said was, he said, we lost to a team that's missing their point guard and their starting two guard. And it wasn't even close. I like that. I like that. Lance says bring CJ off the bench. I think CJ is a trade asset to get a better wing player. I think you guys have a small backcourt, and you can't play any bully ball. All your ball is jump shots, and jump shots in the playoffs don't mix all the time. They mix for some games. The Suns closed out the Lakers. We talked about that, and I think the Suns are getting underrated. So, Suns and Nuggets, who you got?
I'm gonna go with Suns, man. I really like the Suns. I think if Chris Paul was healthy, it wouldn't be a series. I think that, man. I think the Suns would be the best team in the West if Chris Paul was healthy. But because he's not healthy, I got the Jazz coming out of the West. I mean, the Jazz coming out.
Booker took a huge step forward in the last series. I'm going Suns.
Listen. I thought Booker thought he was good, but those first two games he was a little shaky. But when Chris Paul got back, and this is why we could argue, we could do a whole show about the BS parameters of MVP. Chris Paul makes Devin Booker feel like he's Kobe Bryant. And if it's going to be it's one of those series I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see this series because if you don't like watching Jokic play, you're not a real hoop fan. He's slow. His shots have that crazy arc. But I was watching the game with my brother last night and said, listen, Jokic is going to get every shot he wants to get down the stretch. I don't know what you do. Maybe double team to get the ball out of his hands. Like down the stretch, he got every shot except for that one steal that Covington got. But all the rest of them, he got the shot he wanted. He was the MVP of that series. I think that playing a better team in the Suns, the loss of Barton and Jamal Murray is going to be more obvious, especially with Chris Paul and Booker. Like that's going to be more obvious. And the truth thing is, Ayton has to stay out of foul trouble because they play so much better with Ayton back there anchoring defensively.
Yeah.
He can't let Jokic get him in foul trouble. And to that point, I wouldn't even let him guard Jokic. I think Jokic and Kyrie are two people that I would put a good defender on them, but not my best defender, because if you play perfect defense, Jokic is still going to get his shot up. The same with Kyrie. So I would never put Drew Holiday on Kyrie because he's going to make.
Isn't that the Bill Belichick lesson of defense?
It is. I love that. I love that grab. So I think we all have the Suns in that series, but I think it's going to be a great series. I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. So
to recap, we have the Hawks, and you all have the Hawks and Bucks. I have the Hawks and Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. And we have the Suns and the Jazz in the Western Conference Finals.
Wow, we all agree? Okay.
I think for the West, we all agree.
Okay.
Lance said you should be a coach. Which one are you talking to? This is important because there's going to be a lot of fights about who you're talking to, Lance.
You can't be talking about Jameed because Jameed is too wordy.
I'm too wordy? I am. I own that. I don't have a problem with owning that. We would be the team would be stuck in timeouts. Like let's get out of here.
Halftime, and the other team is on the court, and the Jimmy's team is like.
So Tia, do you have any questions for us today?
We're gonna circle it back around to Julio. You. That's the answer is you. So either one of us, but we're gonna circle it back down to Julio because we kind of touched on it and said what do the Falcons do at this point? So let's assume that Terry Fontenot can't find the deal that he wants for the Julio.
Mm-hmm.
We still have a
Hey.
draft class that we have to sign.
Mhm.
We're only $337,000 under cap.
Mhm.
So tell me, how do we sign our draft class? What would you do in order to make the room to sign our draft class?
Y'all ain't gonna like my answer. By any means necessary. The only thing that if we could have reconstructed Grady, we'd have done it by now. So I'm trading Julio for whatever I can get.
But the question is, we're not able to trade Julio. What do we do to make the room?
Okay. Well, I don't know. Who else can we restructure?
So you can convert. You don't have to have the player's permission to convert their salary to bonus, right? If they have more than 1 year left. So in that case, I convert Debo and Grady without any restructuring. Because what restructuring really does is the reason you agree to restructure because it gives you some more years and more guaranteed money. But I could just turn your salary into a bonus without telling you. Players don't like that because they get the check, and as we talked about earlier, they just get a per diem check every week during the season. If you convert, they get a check now, and we know how good human beings are good at saving their whole salary for the year. So it's one of those things that you can do. Teams don't frequently do it because it can create some animosity between the teams. But in this case, if I'm not cutting Julio. And I'm not taking anything less than a third round pick for Julio. So if I don't get both of those, I'm going to keep Julio. And I don't believe something is going on with Julio financially, and I'm not going to speculate in that. I'm going to say, okay, we'll be in a staring contest. If you want to sit out the season, because it might help me if Julio needs 4 weeks to get back in shape, because the last 2 years he hasn't played all 16 games, and this time now we're going to 17, which is a big factor in acquiring Julio. So if I don't get what I want, I just convert Debo, which he should be fine.
So you're just doing contract conversions, no extensions.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. I don't know.
How about you?
I don't know. I would consider extending Grady.
I wouldn't mind extending Grady, but it seems as if I'm sure that conversation has been broached.
Yeah. Oh, I know it has.
So I think Grady is like, no, I'm good because he's young enough to get another big
contract.
And so him extending would make him a free agent when he's too old to get another big contract. Like if he plays this contract, he's young enough to get another one. Mm-hmm. And so, and maybe at that point in 2 years, you start getting Aaron Donald down, and maybe he's the number 1 or number 2 defensive tackle in the league.
So there's only 2 players that you can really restructure and give, and really no, actually, there's only 1 player that you can really restructure and give you the room, and that is Grady Jarrett. Now, if you want a little bit more of a buffer, then you do Grady Jarrett and Deion Jones, but you're going to have to do something with Grady Jarrett's contract in order to sign that draft class if you do not offload Julio.
Yeah, I wouldn't extend Debo, and I love him. He's overpaid for a middle linebacker in the modern NFL, and so I would not extend him. I would convert it to bonus, and both of them would be mad at me. But I've already you can't restructure Debo. You could just convert him to bonus. You can restructure Grady, and he's already told me no probably 17 times already. So I just convert him to bonus, and yeah, he won't like it, but I can sign my rookie class.
The thing is, you have very few options. If Julio is not, if you can't offload Julio, it's going to have to come from Grady.
Yeah.
It's going to have to.
Well, I appreciate all you guys coming out. This was a great show. We love that interaction. We love the interaction. And please like us. We need more subscribers on YouTube. We need more subscribers on Twitter. We need more subscribers on our We Dat page on Facebook. And if you can't remember all that, just go to WeDatSports.com as you see rolling below, and then you go down to social, and you can click right on any of them. So you don't have to remember anything. Just put We That Sports in your phone right now, and then go to it, and then like us and subscribe. So thank you. Thank you for spending your Friday with us, or whenever you watch the show.
Oh, and by the way, I won't be here next Friday.
Thank you for letting us know.
I'll be in State Farm Arena.
Oh,
That's right. That's right. That's
Go
right.
on. The schedule was released this afternoon.
Awesome. Awesome. And so you're saying we can't get you to live tweet into the show from the bathroom or from the walk around plaza? And you know what? We're gonna see, because I might not be here either. So we'll see. I'm gonna see what the tickets look like, and if both of my girls want to go, I might be down there too. So
look, and I might come on down myself.
I'm gonna tell you, the only thing is to fly Ricardo down here and go to the game together. Now that would be awesome.
Yeah, we're going to the game Friday and on Monday, so we're quite very excited.
I'm excited for you, and I am seriously going to try to see if I can get 3 tickets low enough for me and the girls. So,
well, for myself, Tia, and Jameed, we thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in once again. Until next week, sometime next week. Peace up, 8 down.
Thank you, Ricardo.